she looks dry in there. Oh, look at that. Okay guys, welcome back to the workshop. Today we're going to be attempting to get this engine running. This vehicle's been off the road for over 10 years. I don't know nothing about it. I've never turned it over. I've never done anything under here. So hopefully today we can get it running, or at least diagnose some faults or issues that may need to be fixed, and then solve it and get it running. Okay, so I made this small list here in the first video, but I didn't actually upload it. I've not done this before, as I've mentioned, so I've kind of made this list to keep me on track and something to follow. So I've just ticked off the first job, which was a walk around video and make a plan. This is basically the plan. Today we're going to be getting the engine running, and then we're just going to work through the list, each video, ticking it off, and then hopefully by the end of it, it's going to be MOT, tax exempt, on the road, running, being used and driving. I suppose we better start. See if we can actually get this thing running and get this thing idling on its own. That's not going to happen with me doing this. Let's get to it. Okay, so what we'll do now is we're going to take the bonnet off. Generally just so it's a little bit easier to work on, but also so that we get more lighting in here so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. So all I'm going to be doing is, you've got two 10mm bolts either side in the hinges, and then this will come off. So if you're going to do this on your own, it's worth getting a little bit of wood, just so the bonnet doesn't slip and whack the body. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. And then simply lift it off. If you guys are new to the channel and you're new to the shop, then this is my 1983 Vauxhall Chevette barn find restoration project. For the purpose of this video today, we're not looking at any rust repair or anything, we're just looking at the engine itself. As you see it now is exactly how I bought the vehicle. I haven't touched or turned a spanner on this at all. There's a lot of things hanging off, there's a lot of things loose, and there's a lot of things that are quite brittle and dried up, so they're breaking when you touch them. I think what we'll do first is we'll drop the plugs out, drop the airbox off, maybe drop the carb off and the cables, and just see if it'll turn over. Just maybe spray inside the bores a little bit. The purpose to this video is we're going to obviously to get it running. To do that, we are basically going to follow a bit of a process, and what I mean by process is we're going to absolutely just wing our way through it. I think we'll take the plugs out first, see if it turns over, strip a few things off, and we'll kind of see what we're working with. I haven't got a bore scope. I would have liked a bore scope to check inside first, but hey ho, we're just winging it. I think we'll take this airbox off because this bit fell off the other day. So that took itself off. So put that down there. That does go to that breather there that we need to look at shortly. Oh, she looks dry in there. Okay, so it looks like we've got two 17s. And then we've got two vacuum pipes that are not connected. I would guess they went to that. If you're new to this and you've never done this before, I haven't, but you can just take photos of everything as a reference. Depends on, I want this back together tomorrow, so I feel comfortable that I'll know where it should all go. But if you are going to be a while, you can take photos, and that will come off. So that's the accelerator cable off and out the way. We've got our fuel supply, And then we've got, that must be the choke cable. So we'll disconnect this. We've put the accelerator cable just over here for now. I love the old stuff, to be honest. The character, I mean, all this is shot, to be fair. But we're going to make it work. Could be a lot worse. Just going to snip that fuel hose because it's scrap anyway. There we go. So now that's off, because inside the carb, I mean, the float still moves. Smells like the engine. Could we run it on easy start first, do you think? Just to see. I don't really know much about carbs, to be honest. I've only ever rebuilt one in my life. And that was a set of R1 carbs, bike carbs. So a single carb like this, I don't know much about. So this should be the float, I'm guessing. So the spring looks intact. It doesn't smell the best, but in here actually looks quite clean. There's a diaphragm of some sort there. I'll put some spray on. What I think I'll do, guys, I'm literally just going to kind of leave this for now. I might just work with it on, see if we can get it running with it on, but put my own fuel supply into it. So at the minute, this is wired up to go 1, 2, 4, 3. So actually what I think I'll do now is I'm going to refer to the Haynes manual, if I've got one with this in, just because I'm going to write down the firing order and reference that, because at the moment this distributor is wired up 1, 2, 4, 3. So we just have a quick gander through this, about this manual, about engine, so 10. Okay, so compression ratio, firing order 1342. So 1342. So straight away, yeah. So if it rotates that way, then it's correct. So I've put a little mark on the dizzy cap facing out. I need to check the rotation shortly. These plugs are the big socket. So the plugs that are fitted are the biggest style, which is the 21mm. So what we'll do is, that plug's obviously, that lead's knackered. I mean, they're all knackered, but to be fair, that one's got a good seal on it. And then so is that one. I'm just taking them off and kind of keeping them in the order that they've come off, although we've took a mental note anyway. The key is, if we can get it running, if it smokes a bit on startup or burns a bit of oil, we can address that, you know, in a year or something. I can take the engine out and build it or put stem seals in it. But for now, it's just to make sure that it hasn't thrown a bearing or anything. They're all pretty much burning equally or burning even, so that's a good sign. Now at this point, I'd probably prefer to have a bore scope and drop a bore scope down, but I haven't got one. I did order one, but it hasn't come in time. So we're basically just going to spray a bit of lube inside, just to help it, and then we're going to try and see if we can turn the bottom pulley over by hand. Give inside a good coating. We'll let that soak. That's going to soak away now and go sit past the rings. So don't worry about hydraulicing it up, because that's not going to happen. We'll now see if we can turn the bottom pulley over. So we've got a 14mm. So let's see if this bottom pulley moves at all. Got to get it on first. There we go, guys. The engine's turning over. Let's get a spanner. Let's get a socket rather for this job, which may be a little bit easier for me. Okay guys, she's turning over. That's a good sign. So she's free, that means she's not seized. She does rotate, she is free, which is good. So that's a really good sign. The engine isn't seized, it isn't locked up, which is real good news for us. Which means on to the next thing now. So I think what we'll do next, I think I'm going to drop the valve cover off, just to have a look inside there to make sure nothing's hanging off and nothing's bad. And then we get into connecting the battery up, which is a scary thing, just because I've never had power to this loom at all. You know, could I get a fire behind the dash? It's a massively unknown area. So yeah, let's get that done. It's going quite well. Fingers crossed. We're probably halfway through putting some fuel in it. So we'll get rid of that. I think we have, well, they're actually flat head screws. Fair enough. You don't have to do this bit, but I just think it's a little bit better just in case. Let's say, for example, there wasn't necessarily a problem with a rocker or something when it parked up, but the rocker may have broke or seized up during its time off the road, and then you go to crank it over and you actually then smash up a valve or cause more problems. So for an investigation purpose, I think it's safer just to do it like this. As we get further along this, if you guys want to support this build, all it takes is a simple subscribe and a simple like and comment below. It's all free, guys, and it just helps the channel grow. So we've just backed off these 4 flat heads. Give ourselves a bit of space, and then we can look to get this off. There we go. She's coming. Oh, look at that. She's crusty. All we're looking here is just a visual inspection, and we're just looking which ones are on the rock, which ones aren't, and just making sure they all feel about the same. We obviously know that this gasket is no good for anything, but we can replace that, no problem. Chuck that away. It is pretty much what I expected to see, quite carbonated, if that's the right word. You know, old, burned, stuck oil. But all the valves look good, the valve springs, sorry. They all look good. The rockers, they all seem to be okay. The threads on the top all seem to be about the same adjustment. Spray all in here. Doobie-doob never hurt. So Matt's here today, so we're actually blessed with someone helping me film, so it's not always going to be too static. Okay, so you can see basically when it's on compression stroke, both valves will be closed, and then on the induction stroke, the inlet's going to be open, and on the exhaust stroke, the exhaust is going to be open. So there should only be one of these rocking at a time. Drop that. So there we go, that's number 2 on the move, and number 4 opposites. So there's 3 and 4 moving. There's 1. Okay, I'm happy now. I've seen every single valve compress and return. So I'm pretty happy. I'm just doing it by hand just to get everything moving. The valves have been seated for many years. We've got everything moving. We've got a bit of lube back on it. So I feel that we're in a good position. Just going to drop the cap off, the Dizzy cap. Just a little flat blade. You've got 2 clips either side. I just want to have a look inside to see what we find. To have a visual look. You want to look at all these brass connections in here. And to be honest, they look good. That looks quite... There's a lot of thickness left on those, so they're quite good. Then you take the rotary arm, will just pull up. When you take this off, you want to just look at the connections the same. We will clean this up, but for now, I'm happy to leave that. And then looking in the bottom of here, this all looks good, to be honest. This all looks quite clean. I'm quite happy with that. So all I'll do now is, I'm going to put... One thing I am doing when I do this is I'm kind of educating myself as I go. So I don't know much about these. I've never worked on this engine. To make sure this cap is correct, I learnt the firing order, which is 1, 3, 4, 2, I think it was. So what I'll do now is I'll rotate the engine over with the rotary arm in, and then to confirm that this cap is correct, that rotary arm should rotate anti-clockwise. So if I spin the bottom pull in now, and yeah, there you go. So what that's doing, guys, is it's just confirming to me that the cap's on correct, and also I'm learning a little bit as I go. So by the time today's video's done, I'll know a lot more about this engine than I did when I started, and it's just purely because I'm taking the time, being thorough, and kind of educating myself as I go. So all I'm going to do is just connect the battery up from some old jump leads from the outside of the car, just in case there's a problem. I think it's going to be better if I can quickly disconnect them. I've never had this connected, so I'm going to connect them and leave it for a few minutes to make sure there's no smoke coming up behind the back of the dash or anything like that, because I've not had it connected and I don't know nothing about this car. So make it safe first. I'll just leave it connected a bit, constantly keep checking the back of the dash and all that kind of stuff. Sorry if it's a bit serious at the minute, guys. I'm not having so much fun of it. It's just this is a serious part of the build, and I've got a lot riding on getting this running, so please bear with it. So all we've got, this is just like a plumber's tool, just to clean up kind of copper pipes and stuff. So I'm just going to give these terminals a bit of love. Be sure to flick dust and everything over your open carb. That's always a clever idea. Okay, everything's looking as it is. Nothing's screaming out at me that it looks, you know, like it's been eaten, or, you know, it could potentially be a problem. So I think if we connect the positive up first, making sure there's no connection with the body anywhere. Pretty happy with that. What's the worst that can happen? Could have a fire. So ignition key's out. So that now, I'm guessing that may be a bad earth. We'll see what's coming out of it. So we've got nothing coming out of that. So why have we not got anything coming out? This is an old battery that I just found lying around. I charged up last night. I don't even remember where this is from. It's not going to be in good condition. It's just hopefully going to be something that we can use to get this process going. Okay, so it's showing 11.3. So let's just keep all the the interior lights come on, look. Interior lights on. Where's the switch on the door? There. Okay, so that works. It's easy for me to try and start, just trying to start it off the key and all that now, and I don't want to cut corners. I want to do it methodically, and I want to try and go through it. Although be difficult, it is difficult to not just jump at it now and be like, you know what, I'm just going to try and turn it over. I'm going to try and find the signal wire now for the starter so I can connect it up out here. I've got one of these old school setups where you can crank it under the bonnet. So I want to get that rigged up so I can do compression and stuff all within the same area without me having to bend and that with the keys and all that kind of good stuff. Looking at the Haynes manual, I think it's the red and white wire, which would be this one. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to disconnect this now. It says, that was crusty. Just here. If I put that there, if this is the correct one, then that should squash that in there. That should be the correct one. We've got no smoke or anything yet. Got no ignition lights. Yeah, so see how that fluctuated to 11 volts? So that is our starter switch. So I now know that I can run off that. On here, I've just added a little wire because this terminal is enclosed. So just to get me a live crimp, I've just added that little bit of wire, and then I'll put that to there. You've got to think about spark now, because the ignition won't be on, so really that shouldn't generate a spark, because there shouldn't be an ignition live to it. But if there was, for example, or you made a mistake and left the key on, and there was a bit of fuel that spat out, it could ignite and you could have a fire. The fuel's going to be too dated in this, I believe, to ignite properly. And also I've disconnected the fuel line to the tank, so we shouldn't really have an issue. So now, if it's correct, and I've wired it up correct, I'm going to move out the way, this should turn it over. Okay, try it. Starters. So you can hear the starter solenoid being in how would you say it? You can hear the starter switch trying to engage the starter, but unfortunately it sounds like it's stuck. So I've just checked, and one of the fuses is blown, but also I found this little bit of tin foil. So if a fuse has been blown before and they haven't replaced the fuse, they've just put a bit of tin foil. Bit of an old school trick, but the fuse must have gone, so rather than replace the fuse, they've just like bypassed the fuse with a bit of tin foil. We on? Yeah. Okay, so what I've done now, just off camera, I kind of want to eliminate these leads now, if I can, just because they're a bit old. I would have preferred to run on these, but these are old, so I'm going to eliminate that. I've completely cleaned up the body earth and all the terminal itself, and I've completely cleaned up the live terminal, and I've cleaned up the top connector, wherever that goes. So I'm just going to actually put the battery on it now. I won't actually tighten the battery up. Be sure to use your battery hammer. So I'll put that on there. So that now, that's got the best connection it should have ever had. We've give the starter a few taps, a few love taps, just in case it makes a difference. So here we go, everything clear. It's probably just going to still do it again, but there you go. It's quite slow, but it's turning over. That's good news, guys, that's good news. Oh, there we go, we're back to clicking. We're back to clicking. So I think, but it turned over. That's great success. I think, great success. I think the starter's obviously temperamental, and I think this battery's not got too much juice left in it. This was charged all night. See, it's got 11.4, if you can quite see that. Should we see if I leave these connected, let's see what it drops to when I try and, if you come in on this, Matt, see if, see, it drops, there you go, so it's dropping down to 4 volts, that's not enough. So actually, this is what you have to avoid sometimes in a build like this. You can end up chasing your tail if you're not careful for stuff that isn't actually to do with it. So if that battery is a bit weak, we're thinking it's the car. Yes, there is a couple of blown fuses, but there's nothing inside work. So those fuses must be for the dash, the heaters, the radio, all that kind of good stuff. So nothing inside works, but we're ruling out the rest of the car by doing it manually. But we've discovered it's the battery now, because that's just turned over, but it sounded slow. So we'll sort the battery issue out, and we're not chasing our tail thinking it's the car. We've eliminated things, doing it step by step, being thorough, following a process that we're kind of just winging our way through. But it's back to, well, that was not even if you hold that for 1 second, it drops to 5 volts. So yeah, we'll swap the battery out and then we'll jump back on. So what I've done now is I managed to get a bigger battery off the van, but it's too big for up here. So we're back on the jump lead setup. I've resprayed everything, so everything's lubed up. So now let's see. Yes, we're connected. Yep. And then, moment of truth. Yes. Brilliant. So we'll do compression now across all the 4. This is just a simple compression gauge that you screw in. Just going to jam this here so the carb float is open, just so that we've got full throttle. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to put this like this and then hold this. Hold that open like that. That's not really got much power in that battery. So what are we on? We are on 50, 60, 70, 80, so 50, 70 psi on number 1. So it looks like we may be failing on the second battery. I mean, that's got to 50, that's got to 70 psi again. I think 70 is quite low, to be honest, but I suppose if we can do it with this battery, it's just too slow, that. Be sure to arc your wires out to the body. That's smart. Thought process behind it is, we're currently at 70 across all 3 so far. So if we get 70 across all the 4, I'm happy that at this speed, the compression is the same. Can't beat a cream egg. Let's get my pointer spark plug. So we've got 70 across 1 to 3 and then 75 on 4. Yes, that's low. Yes, the battery power is low. But nevertheless, we're going to roll with that for now. And I think we're just going to whack a plug in number 2. We're going to use one of the plugs we took off. So if you put that to an earth and then switch the ignition on. We've got no ignition lights. There is 2 fuses blown, but I don't know what they're for yet. We've got no ignition lights. Does the horn work? Yes. I'm not sure if you got that or not. But the good old horn. Yes. So now we are going to, we've turned the ignition on. We're now going to crank it over with our setup again and see if there's any spark. There was spark. It was also in the fan, but there was spark. See if I can show you quickly. Cleaned up all the plugs, reinstalled them. I've refitted all the HT leads. We've done a bodge job on number 1, but that's okay. I've knocked the throttle back to just slightly open instead of full throttle, and I've left the diaphragm on the carb fully open. So I'm hoping that that should allow enough airflow through. We're going to spray a couple of sprays and we're going to turn it over. We need to put the ignition on. Ignition is on, although it doesn't do anything inside the cab. We have a fire extinguisher to hand. Hopefully we won't get that far. So here we go. So this battery does not like the fact it's got compression. You know, it's... Hello? You okay? You want to go in the car?
Yeah.
Okay. You're driving? Pip the horn. Beep, beep. So I think that's my cue to end the video today. I'll go and play with the girls for a bit and do the family time. So we'll be back on it first thing in the morning. Okay, so it is now the next day. We are fresh, we are good to go, and we're motivated. So I've pinched the battery off one of the cars. This is off a diesel Vectra B, so. Okay, so that's what I meant when I was talking about the compression. See how quicker it's spinning over? You probably find you might be a higher compression ratio now. Whoa, the first little bit of spray and it pretty much wanted to jump off. That's fantastic. Okay, so we might have flooded it now. Give it a minute, make sure the leads aren't getting hot or anything. Maybe I was a bit too happy too early, eh? I'll try and regulate this myself. There you go. That's, you know, that's wanting to rev up a little bit. It has got throttle open, and to be fair, it would rev up on that. But to be honest, I want to get it running a little bit better. Let's give it a minute. Let's give it a minute. We're overdoing it, I think. Let's just check it. I'll drop the plugs out, I'm going to clean them up, and then we'll try again. I think that must be the first time in well, many years that some exhaust gases have been pushed through the exhaust. So we'll shoot a bit out if we can. Just going to see if I can get eyes on a bit of piston movement. Two looks great. One looks great. 4 looks great. And 3 looks great. Point to note, the stroke, obviously it's only a small engine, but obviously this is a short block as well because the stroke is like tiny. We're working it out as we go. I'm just getting a little bit of a blowtorch and heating the end up. There you go, look. Make sure to drop your freshly cleaned spark plug against all the oily block. That's very smart. I will be, so if you guys subscribe, you will see in the future, hopefully not this summer, probably more winter time, I am going to drop this engine out actually and do a full engine rebuild on it. That's if I can get it on the road now and just have a bit of time in it, make sure the diff's okay and stuff like that. But I am going to do a full engine build on this. I don't know how easy the parts will be to get, but I'm definitely going to do a full build on it, so I will film that. Okay, that fell out. No. Another failed attempt. We're getting there. I'll work it out. Just give me a bit of time. So what I've done now is I've put up the old pipe onto the carb, onto the intake of the carb, and I've just got this old bottle that I filled with actual petrol. So I'm going to try and attempt to fill at least the bottom of the carb up a little bit. Okay, so I can hear some running in, so I'm going to get a light and just check we've got no leaks. I am going to rebuild this carb obviously, just trying to see if I can get it running a little bit better. It's easy to get to this point now and be kind of like, well, I've kind of heard it kind of go, and I've heard it run a little bit. But the thing is, until you can hear it on idle, and until you've run a heat cycle through it where it's, you know, got warm and then you've turned it off and it's cooled down and then you've warmed it up again, you don't know if there's a little end gone, or, you know, you can't tell off what we've heard it running. Just going to crank it over and see what we get. So plugs are on, leads on, cameras on, in case we burn the garage down. Yeah, boy! We've got oil coming up. Yes, that sounds really good. We've got oil spitting out now, so that means we've got a relatively half decent oil pressure at least. I was just bringing you over. I'm so excited now, can you tell? My monotone, probably boring voices, has probably gone on overdrive. So yeah, that's fantastic. I could probably not build the car, but I think it's probably best to. I might try and... Should we do it again? So we're going to do it again, and I'm going to try. It caught me off guard. I was a bit like, it's running. What do I do if it starts revving? Can I turn the key off? Can I block the carb? So that's good. This is good. This is happiness. Like, this is... that is great news. I need to try. I'm going to save this video now. Like that, because this camera's... When it gets cold and it's in here, it tends to delete. It just goes on a Madden. I'm not going to go mad because I just want to be able to bring you guys over. Get my rag in case we need to stop it. Magic button. Oh, that makes me so happy. When you're too excited about it running and forgetting about exhaust fumes, be sure to vent your shop. There we have it. What I think I will do before we end the video, I think I'll actually do the full compression again, just to... Now we've got oil pressure. You can see it spitting all up there. Now we've built oil pressure up, and we've got good oil pressure. I'm going to drop the plugs back out and we'll redo compression. So we'll just check to see if there's a bit of difference with the battery and stuff, just because I've got all the tools and that out before we start to pack away and move on to the next part. It's kind of stalled me for a bit because I've got it running, and then I've been standing there for like the last 10 minutes going, I don't know what to do now, because it was all about getting it running. So now it's running, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, we're already on the third job. Here we go. So this is the first one. I don't know if you can see that quite, but we had 70 before. What we got now? So we are 1, 10, 20, 30, 40. So 140. 150. Imagine if I threaded it now. Cross-thread the spark plugs now. We got this far. God, that'd be horrendous, wouldn't it? 150. And then number 4. 150. They're actually really, that was actually just over, but they're actually really equal. I'm pretty, well, actually, no, I'm very happy. All them across, that's fantastic. I've done a parts list here of what we're going to order, because I think moving on, we're going to put a new rocker cover gasket on it, probably adjust the tappets. I'm going to rebuild the carb. I'll probably just rattle can and paint the inlet a little bit, so that'll be a new gasket. I'm going to take the mechanical fuel pump off, rebuild that, so I need a new gasket for that, or a sheet of gasket paper, and I'll make my own gaskets. a bit of coolant, we'll flush the rad out and pretty much get it all built back up. So there we go. We will do a full service on this. I'll probably video bits of that. It probably won't be the next video just because while parts are on order and I'm waiting for delivery, etc., I'll move on. We've got to strip it all out and we've got to start looking at the fabrication stage of the build. But that is the end of this video, guys. After over 10 years of being off the road, it's been in the fab shop for a day and a bit and we've managed to get it running. We've been quite lucky with this one. There hasn't been too much that's fought us, to be honest. A lot of it was pretty much almost good to go. There's still jobs to do behind the scenes. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you in the next one. So as we get, I will say so, got a hot burn, man. It must be that smoke. Thank you very much for watching. What do I normally say? Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh.